I guess.
Well, no, I think white people should be praised.
Okay, well, all right. Well, you're not upset. And I just think he's trying to bring some morals in America when he's talking about sexuality. You remember about 6-7 years ago, Dan Quayle puts down Murphy Brown for doing a television show and having, kids outside of wedlock, but that was no big deal. He wasn't, no one went against him saying, oh, wow, he's bashing heterosexuals. But, people brings up...
Sir, Dan Quayle started a firestorm of anti-Quayle opinion in this country, the likes of which we hadn't seen in quite some time. Believe me, as you recall, everybody on talk programs and editorials and everything else, they were all jumping up and down Quayle's comments because, frankly, they had a greater impact coming from somebody who was a vice president of the United States than Reggie White's comments of yesterday. I don't think Reggie White's comments will have much of an impact, frankly.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think that there are a whole bunch of people out there who are, ready to hang on his every word. But it is ignorance, it is backwardness, and it's something that needs to be challenged once they get out there. The words, that is. And so that's what we're doing. Surely, white people, black people, brown, red, yellow folk, certainly all need to be represented in a fashion that speaks to the great abilities that all people have to handle all tasks. What a shame. I do have a line open on the board at 8080810. Charles in San Francisco, you're on KGO with Ray Taliaferro. Good morning.
Good morning, Ray. How are you?
Just fine.
As usual, you're always on top of things. Ray, may I say this? Though I read that in the paper, and those comments by Reverend White were hate from the church. And it is ironic that the church seems to be in the forefront today of leading in hate. The mess we get from the Christian right and all that other stuff. But, Ray, may I say this? The black church, black people, black ministers and what have you, are very homophobic. And this is their regular mantra.
Yeah.
This is nothing new. We had the same thing here in Reverend Lumpkin.
Yes.
Reverend Brown, Amos Brown.
Yes.
Very nice in all of respects, but he has that homophobic in him. And, Ray, it is ironic that black people, of all people that have been suppressed, mistreated, and what have you, rise up with this hate. And that is the one thing that they latch on to. Of all the things that black people are shun and are good about, for some reason they have latched on to homosexuality as a mantra to hate. And you know what, Ray? It is as phony as it can be, because you take churches like Reverend Amos Brown, churches like Reverend Lumpkin and all these others, it's hardly a black church you can walk into where the piano player, the organ, the church director, and everybody is not a flaming homosexual. And it's obvious to everybody that walk in there, and the preacher will stand up there in church and talk all kind of mess about homosexuals, walk out to the pulpit and grab this choir director or whatever, grab them and kiss them and talk about what a great job they're doing. And you and I both know it.
Yeah, it's the problems, as you point out, with the black church and black preachers, and I have said this for years, and everyone who's listened to me knows I've said this for a long period of time. One of the deepest rooted prejudices that black people generally hold, not everybody, but generally, and certainly, as the caller said, in the black church, is the prejudice against homosexuals. And it's something that for years it just puzzled the heck out of me. I never quite understood why that was the case. I understand their interpretation of the Bible and all that sort of stuff. But the thing that bothered me most is what this last caller said, and that is that black people have certainly suffered because of so much ignorance in this country, so many negative stereotypes, and so much prejudice. That I used to wonder, why on earth would black people turn around and then be prejudiced against other groups and deal with the stereotypes of that nature? And once again, as I've been saying for years, which is quite true, black people, by and large, the greatest prejudice that they have, and it's very difficult to turn this prejudice around, and that is the prejudice against homosexuals. It's perhaps some of you have a comment on why it is that black people do indeed. Now, it's not only black people who are prejudiced against homosexuals. We understand that. There are an awful lot of white people prejudiced, a lot of brown, red, and yellow people prejudiced against homosexuals. But with the bottom line prejudice generally being against blacks in this country, given the history that blacks have had to fight against the prejudice, people have died, people have been assassinated, blood has spilled in this country, wars have been fought. I mean, there's been a lot of stuff that has taken place because of that bottom line prejudice against blacks. And one would think, of course, obviously it doesn't logically follow, even though one might think logically it would. But one might think that there would be a great deal of circumspection and certainly understanding and information in the black community regarding all groups of people. But not so. Not so. It is not so. And I guess prejudice is such a strong force in the lives of a lot of people, of all races, of all colors, that it's extremely difficult to deal with, extremely so. And in here you have people, black preachers in San Francisco, as the caller mentioned, black preachers all across the country. And certainly Reggie White, another black preacher, coming up with the same ignorance. It's quite sad. I do have lines open on the board.